Not recognizing. Deep in your eyes. There we go. I think I'm finished with the first PowerPoint, actually. Have we moved on to number 2? Easy now. There we go. Okay, good. Yes, we haven't finished this one yet, but we're almost near the end. For those of you who are listening to me talk on the recording, I'm just checking out the PowerPoint. And now I'm going to take attendance. See who is here. Okay. I thought you guys were leaving today for tonight. Where are you going? South Carolina. Oh. Is Adams? I mean, why go to class? You're just a youth.
They came from Hawaii. I don't know how they do it. I'm 6 weeks straight on the road. 6 weeks straight, no school, on the road.
And what if you blew out your rotator cuff and there's like no... Why you need an education, sir?
I don't know how they pass.
Oh, I'm sure. How do they pass? Ms. Algerin, Ms. Almonte, Ms. Mastora, Mr. Brito, Ms. Campbell, Clark, Mr. Cosme, no? Ms. Dona is here. Where is Ms. Coach? Go to the bathroom?
No, she's not here.
She's not here?
No.
Okay. Ms. Edward? Oh, she's got your hair extended. Ferguson, Ms. Johnson, Mr. Kaiser, Dale Kaiser, Lorenzano. No. Luis is not here. Meneses is here. Muhammad, no. Ms. Halvo is here. Ms. Montez here. Montez. Mulvaney, Nate, Nelson.
Here.
Rushed. Sergeant Reeves, no. Robertson is here. Sanchez. Simcoe. She's MIA. I wonder what's going on with her. She's soccer. Are the soccer people doing something? Does anyone know? They have a postseason?
Yes.
Now? Mrs. Tavares. There's Chanos, Mr. Williams not here. There she is, Montez. And we have Mendoza, Guadalupe. Oh, okay.
They're only taking the test. You can do 30. You can take 90.
There's a spot right there in between Ms. Nelson and Ms. Ferguson, Ms. Montez. If you want to be closer, Mrs. Ferguson, I should say. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, don't listen to me. Don't listen to me. Okay. What was your rank in the Navy, by the way?
8-4.
8-4?
E4.
E4?
Enlisted.
Enlisted 4?
Yes.
Did it call you anything like seaman for your class? Petty officer, there you go. Genus and species, yes. Okay, Mrs. Ferguson, start taking notes. People are in need. Come on, Ms. Nona. Come on. That away. You know, I got my name on it. Our old friends, genus and species, so I'm not gonna belabor the point, Ms. Campbell, or excuse me, Ms. Edwards, on these people, on our two friends, genus and species. I think we know who they are. However, I will give you, as I am wont to give you, the Latin. Hello, Mr. Meneses. What do you think of Cristiano Ronaldo's museum in Portugal? What do you think about it? No?
That's too funny, right? That's too much. I feel like he wouldn't do anyway.
What do you think of the statue? You think he's that? Think he's that built? All I like is that he wasn't that great when he was with Manchester United. That's like humility sandwich. Right, Ms. Edwards? Genus and species. Genus comes from the Latin word genus. However, when you are in your science class talking about genus of animals and biology or something like that, and classifying things, you can really impress your professor or even correct your professor, but do it nicely so you don't get, professor doesn't get pissed off and give you a bad grade. Do it nicely. Genera. Genus, generis, genera. Genus is the noun, generis is the possessive of the genus, and genera is the plural. It's a neuter plural, in case you're wondering, in case some of you were expecting.
What did you say, generis?
Generis is the possessive of the genus, and genera is the plural for those of you who are expecting, like Ms. Dona, for it to be generi. It is not. It is genera. It is a neuter plural. So when you're in biology class, you might hear your professor talk about the genus of a species and the genera of species. One is singular, one is plural. Today, they kind of dumb down a lot of stuff and have been dumbing down stuff in the sciences, so they might just say genuses, add an ES onto it, because that's easy for us in English. But that's not really the plural. It's genera, which, as you can see, means race, birth, descent, origin, which is the reason why, Mr. Naif, when, they discovered these things, first in plants, then in animals, these things that were incorrigible. I'm sure people were doing it while Jesus was doing the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus, wait a second, I was just texting the high priest. What did you say about peacemakers again? Something, blessed are the cheesemakers. Cheesemakers. Well, I'm sure you meant all makers of dairy products. I'm sure you weren't just blessing the cheesemakers. Oh, peacemakers. Oh, well, that's, Blessed are the Greek? Well, wow, what's so special about Greeks, Mr. John? Blessed are the Greek. Blessed are the Greek. Anywho, so a genus, or excuse me, what was I saying? So when they discovered these things in the human person, in plants, as I said first, that could, change the nature of a species, okay? They call them genes. You know, descent, origin. Okay, so you have the genus plant, but if I fiddle around with the genes of a plant, you know, I can make different types of plants. Yellow tomatoes, or something like that. Or, you know, whatchamacallit, I won't say seedless grapes, but what if it's maybe a fruit or a vegetable, because remember tomatoes are fruits, a fruiting plant, that is more resistant to disease and to fungus and stuff that kills plants and makes them inedible, so you can make them. That's what's going on if you go to the store now and you see non-GMO, right, Ms. Basora? When you're going to the store, you're picking through the fruits and the vegetables, and you see a little sign in the ShopRite that says non-GMO. What does it mean, Ms. Basora? You don't even know what it means? Why are they telling you then? Huh? You don't shop for nothing? You just have it given to you, don't you? I got you. High maintenance, eh? Holla, I got it. Non-genetically modified organisms. Non-GMO. You okay? You got a cold? Sorry. Kind of cute how you're wearing the, not a hat, but she made it a hat, you know. No? Non-GMO, which means what, Mr. Kaiser? What do you mean you have no clue? Ms. Nelson just said it. And you were passive aggressive, but you're adorable. You are. I mean, you are cute. You're a cute guy. You're a handsome guy. I should say. You're handsome. I mean, now you don't swing that way, but I'm just saying. Yeah. Non-GMO. Non-genetically modified organisms. I'm not even going to write it on the board. Make sure you're paying attention. When it shows up on Major Quiz 3, you'll be like, huh? The genes of, there are people who do not want their, you know, their vegetables and their fruits to be modified with all sorts of stuff, you know, like genes to make the apples more resistant to, you know, whatever blight might destroy apples, okay? Or on the flip side, let's take it with animals, you know, people who, you know, on whatchamacallit, this is not really genetics, but it's similar idea. You know, you go to the store now, and all of a sudden in the last 5 years, well, not all of a sudden, in the last 5 years, maybe even longer now, you know, no hormones, you know, these have been, you know, this is milk from cows that have not been treated with growth hormones, you know, which is not the same thing as genetics, because genetics you're tinkering with the innards, the nature of the thing, whereas with hormones, you're just pumping chemicals into the thing to make it, you know, look at the say chicken or something, make their flesh fatter and stuff like that. More flesh, so you get more meat and stuff like that. Genes, that's where they got the word from. Does anyone know who discovered genes? Believe it or not, this is just a coincidence. His first name begins with a G. By the way, I'll give that to you. You'd think Ms. Benachanos was teaching the class. See, when you ask him questions, does he say to you, Ms. Benachanos, don't? Does he shut down like an onion?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, G. Anyone know, taking biology? Probably mentioned in high school. Remember when you did the fruit fly experiments? Anyone do those fruit fly experiments in high school? Where you had the fruit flies all mate, and then you looked at them under a microscope to see the variation. Some of them came out with, you know, 3 wings instead of 2. Some of them came out perfectly. Some of them came out with 3 legs instead of 4. You know, genetic modifications and deformities. You never did this in...
I think I'm a high school motor than you.
You're 1 year older than me, woman. You're 44, I'm 43. Okay? You know? Did you do that in high school?
Yeah.
Or grade school? I did it in 5th grade.
Yeah, exactly, grade school.
I remember doing those experiments. They didn't do experiments with you people on genetics?
I don't remember.
Huh?
I don't remember anything.
What have we done then, sir?
Dissect the cat.
Yeah, but that's not the same thing.
That's the only thing I've done like that.
Dissection. That's it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't do plant work where you clip stuff into a plant, you know, a different plant into one plant, you know?
Yeah.
That is true.
I just don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's how genes or modern, that's how the modern science of genetics got its impetus, its start, its push. That's what impetus means, Mr. Meneses. Okay? Push from this gentleman. The father is called the father of modern genetics. How you doing? Just take your coat off. You're cold. You're cold. Okay, Mr. Brito, you're chatty Cathy today. What do you think? What's his name, sir? You play with this guy? What position is he? Oh, pitcher. You know, play. Do you even bat? Or did you have to bat in college baseball if they had a designated hitter?
We could.
You could bat, but you choose not to?
Coaches choose.
You don't want to embarrass yourself.
Coaches choose not.
The coaches don't want to be embarrassed by you. They don't want to have any of these. They don't want to see any stats that are like .008 with like 1/2 of an RBI.
That's true. One of our best hitters out pitcher.
Not you. No. Oh, is that Brendan Price? Yes. Is he looking to go to the majors? Does anyone know? Or is he just a really good player? Okay, then. Well, since you have your phone out, sir, and you're already messing with it, why don't you look up the father of modern genetics, sir, and tell me when you have the answer. So, genus, race, birth, descent, origin. Species comes from the Latin species, species, and the plural is speciae. They may pronounce speciae or speciae. And it has 2 meanings in Latin. One means a seeing, a look. Other, in the active sense, looking at something. Looking at something. And it's kind of true, you know, when you look at species, how do you tell the difference between species? Because they look differently. You just physically, a lot of our words come from actual concrete actions, you know. People looked at them, and a feline, a domestic cat, looked different from a tiger cat. You know, an apple looks different from a tomato. Okay, so they're different species. But, oh, yes, in a second. But I can tell that both an apple and a tomato are not either a tiger or a domestic cat. You know, I can tell their genera are different. Okay? So in the passive sense, active means doing something. Passive means something is done to something. So the difference between I read a book, that's active. I, the doer, am doing. I read. I'm the doer, and the verb, the action word, I'm doing. You would say action word. But if the book is read by me, that's passive. It means exactly the same thing. It's just a different mood, I think they call it in verbs. I could be wrong, but I want to say mood. Or voice, I'm sorry, passive voice. Active voice and passive. The book is read. Something's done to the book, but by me. That's passive. So outward appearance, the exterior, the shape, form, or figure is what species means in its passive sense of, you know, a domestic feline cat is different from
a tiger cat. Tiger cat has made me kind of like go back in my mind when I was up in Canada doing my PhD, because anyone watch the CFL, Canadian Football League? No Canadian football fans? I know I mentioned it. CFL. What's the team for for Hamilton, the city of Hamilton? Yes, sir. You're done? Good, sir. What's the team in Hamilton? It's also where the Canadian Football Hall of Fame is located, in Hamilton, Ontario. Down the road, the highway from Toronto, Mississauga. The Hamilton Tiger Cats. So I thought that was a cool thing. Still have a baseball cap for them somewhere. That's where I was a fan of the Tiger Cats. Canadian football, interesting. It's really like the NFL, but they have some differences. Every now and then they'll do the Grey Cup. They'll do some Canadian football on like Fox Sports and stuff like that. La-da-da-dee. Tiger Cat. So, I just was, when I was poking around the internet, poking around Wikipedia, looking up cats, they showed a little diagram, a little picture diagram of, a tiger as opposed to like a house cat. And even though they look the same, their bodies are different. It was really cool. I never really thought about this or noticed it in my cats at home. That like the shoulders. I know they're not shoulders, but the front paws of the cat are, I think, lower than the tiger. The tigers are higher. And its rump, its back might have been higher as well. So just the way the shape of their bodies have evolved, even though they're obviously related creatures, the shapes of their body has evolved. I don't think tigers have so big of ears as a domestic feline does. So just interesting. And yet they're similar. I can look at them and see that they're similar. But that's tricky. Because some things that I think are of the same species, or the same species, I should say, because I mean the singular, are really not. Like in the news a few weeks ago, they had, or maybe a month or so ago, they had a story, was it in L.A., Los Angeles Zoo, or this National Zoo down in Washington, I forget which American zoo it was one of the big ones. They were able to birth a panda bear. Anyone see this? Yeah. And they were all, Bebe, it's called, the name of the panda bear is Bebe. And no, this is not a shout out to any sort of rapper or rapperette named Bebe. This is two words in Chinese, because pandas are native to China, to the region of China and that area of the world. And apparently pandas are very difficult. They're very skittish animals, so they're very difficult to breed in captivity, very difficult to breed even in the wild because they're so skittish, and to everything just the right way, that eat particular things and not be disturbed. But we call them the panda bears, yes? Panda bears. Except they're not! They look like bears, don't they? But they ain't. They're a totally different genus, and, well, they're a totally different species. Does anyone know what panda bears are? What species they're part of? What grouping they're part of? Good, that's what education is about. Then I can't lie to you as much as I'd like to. I feel like at least 40% of my lectures be lies. And then when my students start knowing too much, I can't lie to them all the time. Or as much, I should say. That's cut down to only 90% of what I tell you is true, 10% is lies. I'm kidding. I don't lie to you at all, at least not knowingly. I haven't forgotten you, sir. Well, let's let people think about that. Who is the person, sir?
Gregor Mendel.
Gregor Mendel. Austrian? Austrian? Mr. Brito? Was he from Austria?
There's no Y.
Does it say where he was from?
Yeah.
Where was he from? You think it was Austria? Keep looking. Austria. Thought so. He was not a monk. He was a friar. He was a priest. Father Gregor Mendel. Remember I told you, like, the guy who theorized the Big Bang, Father Lemaitre? Father Gregor Mendel was a friar, an Augustinian friar. You don't need to know that. Friars are not monks. They're a different type of person who lives a religious life. Monks are committed to a certain monastery where they're supposed to stay their whole life in a life of prayer. Friars arose, that is the ancient form of kind of, I don't know, I want ascetic, but you might not know what ascetic means. Of say a more devout religious life in the history of Christianity is really monasticism, the monks. Okay? So, for example, I've told you before, I'm Eastern Christian, Eastern Catholic. We don't, well, we do have some friars, but they're imports from the West. In the Eastern churches, Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, Syrian Orthodox, etc., etc., they only have monks and nuns. They don't, a person who commits his or her life totally to deep prayer and worship, 24 hours a day almost, 7 days a week, oftentimes in solitude. Okay? But in the West, in Western Christianity, about 800 years ago, you had this development of people who wanted to lead a life like the monks, but didn't want to be so tied down to living in one place. Okay, and they also wanted more ministry. Monks really didn't, it's not totally true. A lot of monasteries taught the local populace. That's where the great universities came from. They came from monasteries. And people would, because the monks were usually literate, because they needed to copy the Bibles. I mean, you didn't have Kinkos. They were your Kinkos, So they didn't have scanners in the library, They were your scanners, Thank you.
Yeah.
You needed copies of the Bible so people could read it, So you needed a whole bunch of monks in their little offices, writing the Bible, and that was their work. Or they'd make beer or something. They'd have other fun stuff that they would do, like make beer and wine and stuff. Which, believe it or not, that's why in Europe, now it's a custom, now it's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing. You go to, like, England, Arizona, and ales, beers, Germany, beer, stuff like that. The French, Italy, you go to wine and stuff. Alcohol's all over the place. Well, there's a reason for that. Because in the ancient world, and here I'm talking about also the medieval world, 800 years ago, there was no water system. There was no sewer system. The sewer system was throwing stuff out the window into the street and letting the rain deal with it. Yes, the Romans had aqueducts that could carry, the Romans built these things that from the mountain tops, from the melting snow, that could bring water into the cities. But it wasn't purified. It was just a transport system, Yes, people in the ancient world did have indoor plumbing. They weren't stupid. They knew how to drill a hole so water could go through it into your house, They knew how to have something, even toilets and stuff like that you could have running water, and then, you pee or do your business into the hole where the running water wasn't to take your stuff away. They weren't dummies. They knew how to do it. And if you were rich, you could do it. Poor people, no, of course. But it wasn't purified, They didn't make, they weren't making sure that there was no bacteria in the water, And that was you know, just if you were in an enlightened place like the Roman Empire, if you were like, you know, living in the Middle Ages and in the medieval cities, where, you know, the animals pooped on the streets, they're filled with, you know, refuse and garbage, and, you know, people spitting and people taking a, you know, doing their business when they needed to. You know, just put down your breeches and go to town. The water system was filthy. And people noticed that if you drank alcoholic drinks, you did not seem to get sick from drinking them. Why?
Because it was heated
Heated? No, sir.
to kill the bacteria.
No, sir. They did not. We didn't know about heating killing germs until the 1800s.
But they have to brew beer, right?
They do have to brew beer. Ah, good point, sir. That's true. But to make beer, you still need the bacteria. That's what makes the beer. That's what ferments it. So you don't want to, I mean, you do want to heat beer, but you don't want to do it too much that you kill the mother, which is what they call a bacteria that ferments the grain. Because if you do that, you ain't going to get beer. You're going to get some kind of grainy, sludgy water. That's what you're going to do. Yeah, and they do, and they use what? But why? We live in a germaphobe society. Come on, you people should know this, just like you don't have any alcoholic wipes in the car. You don't have any little bottles of stuff that you put on your hand. And what does it have in it? Alcohol. Alcohol in a gel. That's all they do. They're charging you for giving you out. You can just buy a bottle of alcohol and do that on your hands. Alcohol kills bacteria. So that's why people did not typically, in a lot of ancient places, and you find this all over the world, India, the world, people drank alcohol and preferred to drink alcohol. Not because they were drunks, although that plays into it, but because they noticed that, you know, I can drink wine, I can drink beer, and I don't get sick. But if you drink the water, you know, use the water for washing and stuff like that, but, you know, you get sick. So it was dangerous to drink the water back then. So anyway, so that's why the monks and the friars would make tons of beer, and they were like, you know, the local water supply. Think of it as your local water utility, you know. Go to the monks to get your cask of beer or wine, you know, and people could survive. So it wasn't that the monks were a bunch of drunks. Maybe a little Ric Flair action. Woo! But Gregor Mendel was a friar. He was a member of a group founded in the 1200s, 800 years ago, that was one of these groups, these new movements. Okay, so he was a religious man. He was a priest. And he discovered that when he was doing cuttings in the garden for the friary, the place where they all lived, and doing his work as the gardener, he noticed that, you know, if you clipped in certain cuttings from different plants, you could change them, you know, genetics. He didn't know why, but he studied it. Genetics. He discovered it. So species. I'll tell you about that. I said that already. We'll get to that. I already did that. Okay, we'll come to that. So panda bear. Anyone want to take a crack at that one? Anyone to Lorenzano? Clark? Algarin? Edwards? No? Panda bear? Panda bear? That should be your nickname. That would be a good nickname for you. We gotta come up with some nicknames for people. Panda Bear. She'll be Panda Bear. P-Bear for short. P-Bear. Okay, P-Bear. Let's see. No, pandas are not bears. They're not. They are rodents.
Oh, I'm a rodent? That was my nickname.
But you'll always be
No.
Panda Bear.
Rodent.
Come on, it's just a rodent. You're gonna go to like, you know, one of the nuns and say, "You call me a rodent?" No, I didn't call you a rodent. They're rodents. They are not bears. Killer whales. You know what a killer whale is? Huh? A mammal, not a whale. Whales are mammals too. Killer whale. Okay, you know what? I'll call you killer whale. K-whale. Because killer whales are ferocious. You never see them. The seals never see them coming. They just pop up out of the ocean. And see what you did? She's already texting someone that my professor just called me a rodent. I did not. You're P-Bear. You're Panda Bear. You know, panda bears are all fluffy and nice, you know, until you try to scratch them or do something and they bite your hand off, you know. Killer whales, Miss Donna. Killer whales. No, they're not whales.
Are you sure?
They're not whales. They're not fish. They're not whales. Shark? Nope, shark is a fish. Shark has gills. Killer whale doesn't have gills. Killer whale is like a dolphin. It's a dolphin. What? It's a big-ass dolphin. They're the same genus, sir.
So why is he called a killer whale?
Because it looks like a whale, sir. Look, appearance. Why I tell you, species are tricky. Specii are tricky. No, killer whale is not a whale, it is a porpoise.
So koala bear, is that a bear?
No. It is also a rodent, sir. A koala bear, which is indigenous to Australia, is also a rodent, like a panda bear. It is not a bear, even though it looks like a bear. No, killer whale's not a whale. Not even close. Porpoise.
What makes a panda bear a rodent?
Well, how it gives birth. I mean, first of all, it's whatchamacallit, what do you call it, like kangaroos. I can't remember the name now. But they don't give birth the same way. You know, a bear has a uterus and gives birth to the little baby bear, okay, the cub. But a panda bear, you know, it comes out of the little panda, the new panda bear comes out of the uterus or whatever inside and crawls up the belly, goes into the pouch. Like a kangaroo with a kangaroo. I forget what it's called now. There's a special word for it. Marsupial. That's right. So that's why I had a little panda, little thing. You know, so.
What do they have a house at? What do they have a house?
They have a little baby has to go in there and stay there until it becomes big enough. Tail is different. I mean, panda bear, you know, it's not the claws. You know, there might be other things. You know, a biologist would look at the skull structure, the teeth, stuff like that.
So kangaroos rodents too?
I don't know what a kangaroo belongs to. I have to look that up. But I'm showing you that something that might look like it's of the same species is not. Is not. So you have to be careful. You have to be careful. That's why the word says outward appearance, exterior, passive sense. Okay? But that's not always the best judge for what's part of the same species. A blue whale is not of the same species as, God bless you, a killer whale, which typically really should be called an orca. A whale shark is not of the same species as a blue whale. A whale shark is a fish. Huh?
Kangaroo's a rodent.
It's a rodent too. Okay, good. A zebra, however, is part of the horse family, we could say. It's a species of horse. All right, that's pretty clear. But other four-legged creatures are not. You know, a deer, a female deer. Deer, female deer. Ray, me a name I call myself, far a long way to run. So a needle pulling thread, love and no following so. Tea I eat with jam and bread, and that brings me back to do 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 do. A deer, a female deer. Sound of Music, you know, the classic Hollywood musical film. I don't particularly like it, but I don't. You know, some people love it, but some of the songs have stuck with me. You know. Good night, so long. Oh no, what did I say? Yeah, good night. Some of the Auf Wiedersehen, goodbye. Blah blah. See, it's difficult to keep your eyes wide open all the time and your ears open and to like take things in and like learn things. But then again, I'm 43. You're only in your 20s, so you got 20 more years, which you will pile all sorts of stuff and. You know, you'll talk about...
Hopeless.
No, you're not. Well, we're hopeless. They'll just be talking about stuff we don't know about. Like, they'll be talking about, like, rappers and stuff, you know, Little Kim or Cray or whatever these people are, you know. Adele. Where the hell did Adele... Sorry. Where did Adele come from? All of a sudden, she's on the front of Time magazine. I didn't even know who the heck she was. I didn't know she was a singer out there, huh?
I didn't know she was a singer.
No. And you know what, Mr. Nave? It was wonderful.
What did you say?
I didn't even know Channing Tatum was a guy until some students told me. Thank God.
Little Kim is kind of big now.
Is it on his curve?
Okay. So species can be tricky. Species can be tricky. The thing to remember is that while there might be many many differences within a species, in a genus, many differences within a genus, the differences within the species are not so great. So when we move to genus, we're moving from more abstract to less abstract. So we're moving from the abstract to the concrete, from generalized to specific, from the less specific to the more specific. So when you get into the nitty-gritty of, you know, like say, heavy metal music. Abstract, it's music. Break it down into something more specific, heavy metal. Christian heavy metal. Well, what type of Christian heavy metal? Death metal, metalcore, shoegazing metal, progressive metal, symphonic metal, traditional classic heavy metal. You know, even within musical styles, or all sorts of stuff. So you're going from even the less specific to the more specific. So if I say heavy metal, well, classic heavy metal. What kind of classic heavy metal? Classic doom heavy metal? Classic glam heavy metal? You know, 70s heavy metal? More specific. And as Kelly says in the textbook, we are moving in the direction of greater concreteness, going from genus to species. And we're moving to greater concreteness, more specificity. And here I give you an example how this is used in the sciences. This is a philosophy class, but we should be cross-disciplinary. And I try to do that by bringing in all sorts of historical references and science references and references to culture. Try to do it. I hope I do my best, and you appreciate that. But here's what they do in science. You know, you have the domain, you have the kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. You know, I would memorize this, or at least have it handy, because, you know, I could see myself taking this for the next quiz and maybe blacking out some of those terms to see if you know which comes which, when, where. So genus and species. In philosophy, we don't use really these terms, although sometimes philosophers will. They'll try, especially more scientifically oriented philosophers, like analytic philosophers. But generally, you can get by with genus and species. Okay, but I just want to show you how, even in the science, you need standards. You need a certain philosophy in anything you're doing, so you can start organizing and make sure that how you're organizing is not in the eye of the beholder, but is real. You know, as Kelly says in the book, you know, you want to make sure what you're doing is real. Okay, you're real. You know, people looked at, for example, the sun and the moon and thought they were planets, but they're not planets. The moon is not a planet. It's a satellite. Well, it's a type of planet, I guess you could say. Well, no, it's not a planet. It's a satellite. The sun is not a planet. It's a star, Mr. Clark. You know, nothing like a planet. You know, planets are wanderers. That's what the word means, wanderer. Because when people looked up at the sky every night, and, you know, people could notice stuff. They had no TVs. They were looking up at the sky, and they noticed that thing that was there is now there. It moved. You know, that little red dot, Mars, moved, whereas the other stars stayed in place. So they thought that, like the sun and the moon, were planets because they moved too. You know, you've noticed this if you're driving along just the other night. Looking at the moon, it was down low, big, and then, you know, like an hour or so later, it's like over here. You know, the sun, you know, comes up. Stop saying you know, Mr. Dunn. The sun comes up and it goes across the sky and it goes down, Ms. Dunn. It moves. It moves. It doesn't really. But you know what I'm talking about. Well, it does move, but it doesn't move out of its spot. It does rotate, though. So in the ancient world, people just took it for granted that if you ask them, you know, what planets were, oh, yeah, you know, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, some of the big planets they can see, or the planets that were close to Earth. But they'd also include, like, you know, the sun and the moon, these are all, even though they're wrong, astronomically, they're technically wrong. But that's, you know, that's what they were looking at. Animals. I mentioned, you know, killer whales and, you know, koala bears and panda bears. Now, if I told you that a kangaroo was a rodent, you know, that might not be, oh, okay, it's a rodent, you know. When I tell you, you know, like a panda bear is a rodent, it's like, huh? You know, because a kangaroo doesn't look like a bear, but a koala clearly looks like a bear. So this is what scientists use. Look at human and corn, okay? A vegetable, type of vegetable, okay? I have to look this up. I have to see what eukarya is. It might just mean all. Shall I have to look? And if someone wants to look it up for me, I'd appreciate it. Shall I give you, Mr. Brizzo, 2 points for Gregor Mendel? If someone wants to look up eukarya, I might throw a couple of points your way. But look, we're Animalia and Plantae. So when we get to the kingdom, or you might put it in modern terms, you might say the nation state, of what we belong to, clearly human beings and corn do not belong to the same country. Okay? It's like people from New Jersey and people from Mississippi. You know, if you're in New Jersey, you might not be listening. Well, you might be listening to country music. Not even Christian country music. Not even Christian country music. Going to the dentist without Who's got Ms. Nelson? Did you raise your hand? I thought. Yes, sir.
This is the domain of organisms having cells in each distinct nucleus. With genetic material.
Can I see that, please? I'm just, I always like to look for etymology. You is good. I'm not sure the Karia. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Karuotos, having nuts. No, not in that way. Having good nuts. This is the word used that presumably referred to the nucleus in the cell. Yes?
Doesn't the eukaryote thing like two cells? Because it has the membrane and everything.
Yeah, it has cell with a nucleus. Yeah, so it's a proper cell. We could say that. We could translate that as a proper cell organ with cells, or literally good nut. You're curious what the Greek was, karuotos. Yeah, so it has to do with proper cell formation. So even though, and you learn this in biology, right? Yes? An animal cell is different from a plant cell. An animal cell is like this, with a nucleus. What does a plant cell look like? Huh? It's squarish, yeah, like this. Both have nuclei, nucleus, nuclei. Both have nuclei, but their shape is different. But since we both have cells, both organisms, we both belong to this domain of eukarya. But that's where it ends. Animalia and Plante, right there, there's a difference. Right in our cell structure, you can see, one has animal cells, one has plant cells. Even if you did not know that you were looking through a microscope at a swab from a human being's mouth, you could tell this is not a plant cell. I'm looking at a living creature of some sort. Okay? Chordata and anthophyta, or anthophyta, I guess you could say anthophyta, probably. Chordata from the spinal cord. Okay, amongst animals, which ones have backbones of some sort? You know, plants don't have backbones. They don't have spinal columns. What are mammals? Then we get into how we procreate. Mammals are different than marsupials. Okay, we procreate differently. So could still be an animal, but procreate differently. I mean, there are animals like the platypus that procreates through eggs, or chickens and birds. There are some animals that procreate through, you know, the sexual act. You know, horses, dogs, and so forth. Human beings, of course. Then we become primates. We are related to this group, this order. Notice our classification, Mammalia. But within our classification, we can be more specific. We are not just mammals, but we are mammals of the primate family. We are related to, yes, monkeys and apes and gorillas and different types of primates. There are specific kinds. And, you know, you can see that by looking at them, I think. We grow hair in the same places, and you know, we have certain of the same types of, you know, organs and stuff like that. There's our serious differences, of course, because we have opposable thumbs. Apparently, we have a larger space in our skulls for the brain to grow, etc., and so forth. But I mean, you go to the zoo and you look at some of these gorillas, and they look like people. You know, I mean, sometimes it stuns me sometimes just to look at some primates and how much they look like people I've seen. No, that's not a joke. You know, we're related. We're related. We're related animals. Doesn't mean that God didn't create us. I told you my theories about it, but I wasn't there, so I don't know. But you know, I still think that the best explanation is the first primate that was able to put together 1 + 1 = 2. You know, God was like, there we are, baby. You know, I can work with that dude. or Judet, you know. If you follow Genesis, the male was created first, but again, I wasn't there. But even amongst primates, there were hominids. There were these creatures that were very much alike, chimpanzees and all sorts of different primates. But, you know, there were human-like creatures, Neanderthals, Cro-Magnon man, you know, Homo habilis, all these different little, you know, they find skeletons. I think recently they just found another skeleton. I saw it in the news, but I forget all the details, so that's all I'm going to say. A hominid skeleton, one of our ancestors from us. And, you know, we're what's left. The homines, I should say, homo, homines is the plural, homines, homo is singular, which simply means human being in Latin. They have a word for it. We don't. Man, say, homo homines, plural for men. But for some reason, we outlived them. Some scholars, I've only gotten this because I watch like the Discovery Channel, and watch some of these things, watch the History Channel, watch the Discovery Channel. They have some interesting stuff. You know, they popularize scientific theories, you know. It's almost like going to school, but in a fun way or an interesting way. Not my way, because I think school should be mind-numbingly boring and painful to a certain extent, but the nuns won't let me bring in the ruler. But that's just, you know, and there are laws nowadays, you know. The old days when you could really have a brawl with your students. I'm just kidding. No brawling with your students. I love you. I love you all. But yeah, I mean, Neanderthals and Cro-Magnon, there's no hard and fast dating for when they went extinct. In fact, anthropologists believe and geneticists believe that there was, because they were of the same family of creature, a lot of our ancestors probably intermingled and even sexually intermingled with like Neanderthals and stuff like that. And again, if you look at from skulls and the structure of Neanderthals, it's weird. I've seen people that look like that. And again, I don't mean that as a joke, but you know, I love how genetics can, you know, it's just fascinating to me. I've told you this before, you know. I was just looking the other day, whatchamacallit, Fiji. Fiji. You know about the cyclone in Fiji? No. Why would you? For which I want to pray, holy and blessed God, for all of those people who were hit by the hurricane in Fiji and destroyed most of the island and killed some people. Only some, thank you God, but harmed a lot of people, and a lot of people are living in shelters and are uncertain about what their future will be, and it'll take years to build everything back up for them. So I pray for all those people who are suffering, holy God, from that cyclone, and pray for your mercy upon them. And come on in. And for those who died, I pray that they will rest in the peace of your mercy, O God. Then there was that dude who went and shot all those people for some unknown reason. Was it out in Michigan or something?
Yeah, that was driving around.
Yeah. He was doing his job as a Uber driver. He has Uber. In the meantime, he's blowing people away. But I thought the sad thing was, you know, there was this, like, some kid and his dad looking to buy a car, some 17-year-old kid, and he killed him. You know, to me that's just so. I mean, it's tragic, but it's just sad. Poor kid, you know. I mean, his dad as well, but and of course, you know, the other people's lives matter. Or, you know, like that little baby. See on the news, that little baby that was beaten to death by that babysitter in New York. And then I saw a picture of the babysitter on the news, and I'm like, why would you leave anything to that creature? You know, I would entrust that person to, like, you know, take care of a gallon of milk for me, you know, you know, a little 16-month-year-old boy. And of course, you know, someone beat the kid to death. So I offer up those people to you, Holy God, the people killed by that guy. And of course, the guy's facing justice now. I pray for his conversion, Holy God, his repentance for what he did. Still don't know why. And for all the people on your planet, God, that are suffering and maybe people in this class who are suffering. I know I do. Who might be suffering from illness or just having, you know, a bad time with life. Yeah. And of course, Lord, thank you for all the good things that are in our life and people who might not be suffering, might just be happy. I offer these prayers to praise you in the name of your Son, Jesus. Does anyone know where Fiji is? Does anyone know where Fiji is? Huh? Japan? Close. But no. But you're close. Same ocean, though. Same ocean. Same ocean. Your husband's on an island country, Japan, yes? What ocean is Japan in? What ocean is Japan in? Come on, sailor. You don't know the oceans of the... The Pacific.
Yeah.
It's in the Pacific. And there was a cyclone. If it's in the Pacific, it's called a cyclone. If it's in the Atlantic, it's called a hurricane. Don't ask me why, that's just the way it is. That's why I get irate when I hear people call tidal waves tsunamis. Because when we had tidal waves with Tropical Storm Sandy, they were not tsunamis, they were tidal waves. Now if it happened in LA, then it was a tsunami, because they call them that in the Pacific. But it's the same thing, you know, just words, okay? So Fiji was hit. But when I was looking at the news, it reminded me that a lot of the Fijians look African. They have an African hairstyle, you know, very short curled hair. They're very black, very dark-skinned. The facial structure is similar, the same. Why? Because I told you before, the ancestors from Africa were able to walk almost all the way to Australia, and then they believe that people believe they got into boats, and they at some time migrated out to the islands that were in the Pacific, and they brought their genes with them. I find that fascinating. It's like language and stuff. They brought their genes, their bodies with them. The genes from Africa came with them. Okay, and so when I'm saying that I see people who are Neanderthals or Cro-Magnons, I'm not making a joke like they're like stupid or no, but it's not surprising to me that sometimes the genetics are still there. They are still there. It's part of who we are. We apparently did have interspecies mingling because they were different species than us. They were not the same species. They were hominids and they were homines. All right, know what I'm saying, all right? But they were different species. We are Homo sapiens. We became Homo sapiens, whereas they were something else. Homo neanderthalicus, I think it might be called. Same thing with corn. You can see very early it's clear that we're not talking about the same type of thing. Now, we get out of here 40, so I should pass back your stuff. Thank you for being so respectful. Because I know if you weren't expecting the test, you might have been out the door like the rapture had happened. I do have some extras for some people that I have to hand back. Make sure I get all these back. So I'm just going to stand up here and I'll call you and give you your thing. First, what I have to do. Ms. Johnson, you have an old one. Where'd she go? She's got. And Cosme is not here. You're welcome. So can't do anything about that. Brito here. And Mendoza is here. Richo. And, yeah, you need to, no, Mr. Britt, yeah, you need to take the other one, yeah? Okay. So Ms. Mendoza, come on down. Let me see if I can find your other one here. There we go. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I understand you're busy, sir. Please don't get any help on it. Appreciate it. Thesora, Ms. Edwards, people in the back here, Ms. Rashed, like everybody who's sitting in the back. Okay, Edwards, Thesora, Rashed, Kaiser's over there. Let's see what we got here. 40 points. 40 points. Kaiser, Miss Ferguson is over there. Miss Tavares. Where is she? Tavares, you're in the back. There you go. Montalvo, and Venecianos is over there. Now I'm in the front. Crazy. Venecianos, Dona. Huh? What about it?
Did you take it out?
Yeah.
You put it with our grade or out?
Miss Adams is not here.
Is that 2 points already out?
Venecianos, I got you, Ms. Montez in the back.
Dr. Doc?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you called me.
I did, Ms.
Oh,
Venecianos.
thank you.
There you are. Mr. Clark is over there.
Oh, good.
Okay, Mr. Clark, Ms. Nelson, Ms. Robertson. Okay, Ms. Campbell, Salmonte, and Mr. Cosme is not here. Ms. Lorenzano's over there. Algerin. Go. Lorenzano. You're welcome. So, Mr. Clark, what's going on?
Thank you, Dr.
You're welcome. Have a nice day.
You prayed for me. I appreciate it.
I did? Oh.
You picked me up for a second. I'm out of luck now.
Oh.
I'll see you in
Why? Okay.
At least tonight.
I'm sorry?
At least tonight.
Oh, God bless you.
Thank you.
May God, Jesus, be with you, protect you with His Spirit. I'm sorry, you got...
Because I showed up and that stuff, whatever. I can't miss anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I hope you find another job.
Well, because I'm only out for 6 weeks. If it doesn't improve, then I'm out permanently.
I'm sorry.
So I don't get paid for 6 weeks. But that's what I'm. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Hope you feel better, Mr. Clark.
Is that like 9 long, about 30?
I don't know, sir.
The ones that you put the red mark?
Those would be wrong, yes.
So is that bad?
I don't know. You'd have to add it up. Take your score and add it up, or divide it by 40, and you'll get an idea of how you did. What score did you get?